What up, though? Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered on Notoriously Opinionated. It's your man that goes by many names and monikers. But tonight, I'm stuck between Negus God and Momoamuate Mbonisi. You can call me either one of those. I respond to them both. If you tuned in to Unfiltered on Notoriously Opinionated because you want to hear me talk about relationships, if you tuned in to Unfiltered on Notoriously Opinionated tonight because you want to hear me talk about relationships, you are in luck. I'm going to be talking about relationships tonight. Just not the relationship that you might be expecting me to talk about. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the relationship that black people have to Juneteenth. And because today is Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, and I want to talk about Juneteenth tonight because it was on this day in 1863 that the Emancipation Proclamation was set forth by Abraham Lincoln and freed all the slaves. And then after that particular emancipation, the slaves were freed, and that was Jubilee. Wait a minute. That's not. Hold on, wait. This is June 19th. The Emancipation Proclamation went through on January the 1st. Juneteenth didn't happen until June 19th, 1865, and that happened, as far as the emancipation, that happened on January the 1st, 1863. Huh. Could it be that Juneteenth is a joke? Let's get to it on Unfiltered, on Notoriously Opinionated. Let's go. Alright, so the reason why I'm saying that Juneteenth might be a joke is not because I am demeaning, bad-mouthing, or belittling the accomplishments that Juneteenth represents at all. 250,000 African slaves were liberated due to June 19th, 1865. The light that I want to shed is the fact that they were already freed due to the Emancipation Proclamation that happened 2 years prior, right? So Lincoln, all right, so this is going to be kind of stream of thought. So, all right, on January the 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation freeing all of the slaves. So in 1863, all of the slaves, for all intents and purposes, were free. All of them just didn't know it. Now, there is a difference between the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. The Emancipation Proclamation falls under the 13th Amendment, but it's not necessarily the 13th Amendment, right? So here's what effectively happened. The the Emancipation Proclamation was a gun with a single clip, right? The 13th Amendment was an endless supply of ammunition. That's what it was. That's an example. The Emancipation Proclamation only had a certain number of teeth that it could bite with. The 13th Amendment gave it fangs to where it could bite and do some damage, right? So it gave the necessary foundation for the 13th Amendment to be able to stand on and withstand any opposition. That's the difference between the 13th. That's the difference between the 13th Amendment and the Emancipation Proclamation. They are separate, but they come together, right? So, so there was a lot of interesting dates that happened before June 19th, which is where we get Juneteenth from. It's a combination of June and 19th, Juneteenth. And honestly, Juneteenth is celebrated the 13th, 14th, anything June with a teenth, any of the teens, so 13 all the way to 19, 19th being the culmination. And the way that Juneteenth normally rocks, when it's that week-long celebration, come the 13th, it's just celebration, celebration, celebration. And then on June 19th, today, it's supposed to be what's called a unity feast, right? And Umoja Karamu, if you will, right? Umoja Karamu just meaning unity feast in Swahili. So during this Karamu, the people would break bread and dance and play music, and it's just festive, which is why it's called Jubilee, because it's the day of Jubilee, and Jubilee just means that you're jubilant, you are happy, you are, festive, everything good, right? So today is considered the day of Jubilee. And so this is where the feast will come in. But Juneteenth is celebrated throughout all of the teams, just culminates on the 19th. But again, there's dates that happened before June 19th, going all the way back to 1863, that are significant, like January 1st, 1863 is when the Emancipation Proclamation was put into effect. Then you had April 8th of 1864 when the Senate passed the 13th Amendment in Congress. Then you had January 31st. Then you had January 31st, 1865, where it was passed in the House. And yet that information did not trickle down to the Lone Star State until June 19th, when Gordon Granger went down there with his army under presidential order. Go down there, read this general order to whoever comes up against you, and let them know that they have to free these slaves, right? So that's what happened. Under executive order and under the general orders of the executive branch of the United States, Gordon Granger went down to Texas, Galveston to be precise, and told all of the slavers in Texas that these slaves are here and now free. Now the thing about that day, forget that day. No, don't forget that day. The thing about that moment that I have to give a little bit of gravity to is this. I cannot imagine what my ancestors that were in Texas could have been feeling within that moment. Like, to hear him say those last few words, are hereby free. All slaves are hereby free. Now check that, because technically they weren't free, still ain't free to this day. We liberated. We are not free by no stretch of the imagination. Huru si huru, huru si obure. That is, freedom isn't free in Swahili. So yeah, we're still not free. Anyway, liberated, not free. But in their minds, they really didn't care about the difference in the definitions of the word and what free is as related to liberated. All they knew is they wasn't in chains no more, which is liberation. And that they can leave this cruel slave master. That's what they knew, right? So you got this overwhelming joy, what would have had to have been an overwhelming joy on one end, right? And then there had to be a point to where it was like, hold on, I got this white man with all these people behind him with guns saying that I can go. And then I got this white man with not as many people, but all them got guns too. And they saying I better not leave. What white man am I supposed to listen to? You know? So it had to be a little confusing, wild, jubilant. You know, they had to be happy. But the cold thing is this. The slavers that had them down in Texas, they knew that they had been free for 2 years. They knew it. They just didn't tell the slaves, right? But they knew for 2 years that they were free. And 9 times out of 10, they were just trying to wait till the harvest because they knew it was coming. Like they knew it was coming. They just needed to make it to where hey, let us get this cotton picked for this last harvest, and then we'll deal with whatever comes next year, you know. But we got to get all this stuff picked next. We got to get all this stuff picked right now. We'll worry about the planting next year. But yeah, so, I mean, that's why I'm saying that Juneteenth might be a joke, because, like, here's the thing. So, whenever, and this is just me, this is my notorious opinion, you can take it or leave it, this is just me. Whenever the United States government does something that is perceived to be progressive for the people, especially when those people are black people, I am very skeptical, just because of the past. And let's keep it a buck. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican. I don't trust Joe Biden any more than I trust Donald Trump. The only difference between Biden and Trump lets you know he's a secondary racist. It slips out of Joe Biden's mouth when he's not expecting it. That is the only difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden passes laws that is deflating the black people, black men, and black families. Trump just says it. You know what I'm saying? So, and that being said, I could give a damn less who president is. I could care less who wins that popularity contest. You know, they old as Methuselah. Like, come on, man. Let one of the younger snakes in your party lead the party. Let one of the younger reptilian Republicans or the younger reptilian Democrats, because it's just two fangs of the same snake to me. You know, let one of them lead. Anyway, back to Juneteenth. But I mean, I'm just saying. So when, what was it, 2017, when Biden passed into law that Juneteenth was a national holiday. So not the anti-lynching bills. Not the anti-lynching bills. You know, black people still getting killed by police. You know, black people still getting killed by Southern whites. Black people still getting, you know, literally lynched by white people in 2024, right? But you pass and you make Juneteenth a national holiday. That seems like smoke and mirrors to me. It could be just me. I don't know. It just seems like that to me, just because whenever they seem to be trying to do so, I mean, like here it is that we're asking for something substantive, right? And you give us Juneteenth. Do only black people get the day off on Juneteenth? Why do everybody get Juneteenth off? If Juneteenth was meant to be something that was for us, then why is it not just people of African descent that get Juneteenth off? You know? So, you know, and the thing is, Juneteenth is not like Black History Month. You know, it was a black man that started Black History Week, which turned into Black History Month. You know, just because we start celebrating, you know, Juneteenth really only been celebrated like officially since like 1980, and then they made it into a national holiday in like 17. You know, so, but politicians been trying to get anti-lynching bills passed since 1918. You know, so I'm just saying, you know, so it was 2 whole years though. You know, it was 2 whole years from the passing of the Emancipation Proclamation until these. It was 6 whole months. It was 5 or 6 months before it was passed in the House, until they go down to Texas and free those last 250,000 slaves that was still in slavery in Texas. You know what I'm saying? So, like, and I honestly believe, and again, this is just me, this is just my notorious opinion, you can take it or leave it, but I believe had Robert E. Lee not surrendered at the courthouse of Appomattox, that might not have happened. And I'm talking about that the army going down to Texas to get those slaves, because originally when the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, all the slaves were not freed because all the slaves were not told. It wasn't necessarily because all the slaves should not have been freed. Like I said, the 13th Amendment just gave teeth to the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, because it was all lip service at that point, you know, and they had nothing to bite with. They didn't have a bite. It was just words coming out the mouth. So I believe that the president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, he had already been captured. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was done. And I don't even think he knew that Robert E. Lee had surrendered. You know, I'm thinking that he's thinking that his people and his generals are still fighting, but they weren't. They was, you know, they was waving white flags and all kind of stuff. So, but let's be honest. Because I have to bring this up. Let's keep it a buck with this too. Abraham Lincoln didn't give a damn about whether the slaves were freed or not. That was a last ditch effort to win this war, because they was getting their ass kicked. Let's just keep it a buck at first. You know, they was getting their ass kicked. Before the Civil War, They was getting their ass kicked economically by the South. The South was economically kicking their ass because of slave labor. You know, you got the industry of the North, and you got the plantations of the South, and they was making more money. They was making more money in the South because while this industrial revolution y'all got going on up north should be making y'all a lot of money, you got to pay people. You got to pay these workers. You know, the only ones you didn't pay was the Asians that was building the railroads. You know, they was the only ones you was, that's a whole nother thing. And that's a whole nother thing that leads to some current shit too. The how I don't remember precisely how long that Asian hate crime bill took to pass, but I know it wasn't that long. It was like a month or something. You know what I'm saying? Before it went from a bill to a law, right? It went from I'm just a bill to a law in like a month, right? And when did I say that first anti-lynching bill was put before Congress? 1918. It was, another one was put forth again in like 2018, and then again in like what, 2021, 2022 or something like that. Still ain't been passed. You dig? But, you know, anyway, so Juneteenth just might be a joke just because I don't believe that the government is just gonna make Juneteenth a national holiday. I think it's smoke and mirrors to get us to look over here when what we want was over here. But they didn't give us this. They gave us that. But we in that, like, there was nobody that was clamoring. There was no protests for Juneteenth to be a national holiday. There was protests for anti-lynching bills. There was protests to get the police to stop killing us and running our houses and murdering us. You know, that's what it was. There was protests saying that these police should not be getting away with the things they get away with on these traffic cams. You know, that's what people were protesting. Ain't nobody protested for Juneteenth to be a national holiday. And that's what's given to us. Something that we didn't ask for, while all the things that are substantive we did ask for and did not get. And then you'll see Black Lives Matter. You know, immediately everybody is gonna go to the swindle. I never gave a damn about Black Lives Matter LLC. I never gave a damn about that. I gave a damn about what it was saying. It's a statement. Black Lives Matter, right? And after Black Lives Matter comes out, comes all these other things matter. Well, white lives matter. Blue lives matter, talking about the police. And then the encompassing all lives matter. You're talking about black lives, but all lives matter. Well, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. But again, I think we fell into the margin again because everybody apparently forgot that we was fucking here, right? Because all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. So until Black Lives Matter, all lives can't matter. So it's just not possible. Unless you're putting us back in the margin of 3/5, you know, and we're just not a whole person. We're not a person at all. So if we're not a person at all, again, then okay, you know, all lives can matter without Black Lives Mattering. But if we are still people, then all lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter. So, my thing is, should black people genuinely be celebrating Juneteenth? Why or why not? Like, why should we celebrate Juneteenth? You know, when we were actually free in January 2 years prior. So I'm just saying, think about it. Like, this conversation erupted between me and this little brother at this water park a couple of days ago. And he was completely unaware of not only the history of Juneteenth, but just the certain just black history in general. You know what I'm saying? So we ended up talking about Juneteenth, and from that discussion led to a discussion about the Republican Party. Nah. It wasn't really about the Republican Party. It was about the South, and it was about Southern slaves. And so it went from talking about Juneteenth. Juneteenth led to a conversation about the lost cause of the Confederacy, where Confederates tried to pin the loss of, well, in some textbooks, they actually, because the Southern educators were writing their own textbooks for Southern children in their schools, and actually had Southern children believing that the South did not lose the Civil War. And then when it got checked, it was like, okay, well, we didn't lose, we just didn't win. But the only reason that they came out slightly ahead of us wasn't because of their military excellence, but because they just had more numbers. So they came up with every excuse as to why they didn't win the Civil War. But the main thing about the lost cause of the Confederacy was this. It was the fact that they were trying to make it seem as if the Civil War was not about slavery, right? It was about state pride, and it was about honoring all this other bullshit that they were saying that the Civil War was actually about, when it was not, you know. And so that is why a lot, if not all, of the former still Confederate South states do not approve of critical race theory. They do not approve of critical race theory, right? Even in Missouri, you know, right here in Missouri. So I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and Missouri, to those who actually live here, was a slave state. It was part of the Confederacy. If you did not know, this is something else me and this little brother was talking about the other day. Missouri was a slave state, right? It was a slave state. It just wasn't a deep South Confederate. It was part of the Confederacy, you know, but it was a slave state, and Kansas actually was a free state. You know, you had and if you live in Missouri and you've ever passed through Independence, Missouri, and it just feels kind of off to you as a black person, that's why. That would be the reason why. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still got plantation houses up in Independence, Missouri. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and that's the original reason why they were called Jayhawkers, you know. So the Jayhawkers would fight the Independence boys, and that's kind of, because we was talking about the border war, right? And so that was part of the original border war, was because Kansas was a free abolitionist state and Missouri was a Confederate slave state. So Kansas was part of the Union. Missouri was part of the Confederacy, and that has been a bitter pill that I've had to swallow since I've become conscious of the fact. We'll say it like that. So you got the lost cause of the Confederacy. You have the fact that Missouri is a slave state. You know, we was talking about all that. But it still boils down to, should black people celebrate Juneteenth or not? And that's a real question. So hit me up in the comments, right? And let me know if you believe Juneteenth, with everything that I've said, Let me know if you believe whether let me know if you feel like black people should still celebrate Juneteenth. Now, don't say that just because don't those of you that will say yes. Don't just say yes because Juneteenth is what it is right now. Think about everything I've said. And I'm not even saying that because I'm saying Juneteenth is a joke just to get you to listen. Like, again, I'm not discounting Juneteenth or the mark that it has set on history. I'm just saying they made Juneteenth a national holiday. Ain't nobody said shit. Ain't nobody protested for Juneteenth to be a national holiday. Not nationally, you know. And not more than people have protested for other things that would be far more substantial to black people than Juneteenth being a national holiday. That's all I'm saying. So think about it. Think about it with your own mind and hit me up in the comments and let me know. Is Juneteenth a joke? Should we continue to celebrate Juneteenth? Why is it not just black people that's off on Juneteenth? Like, why I read it was a comic strip, right? Don't know by who, but it was a depiction of a slave and a white dude or a white person who was not a slave, and they were both trying to get up on this ledge, right? And the white man starts pulling the black man who is in a ball and chain, starts pulling him down, right? And he pushes him down and pushes him down until he's able to step on his back. Next thing you know, he steps on his head and the black man starts to stand up, and that elevates him to where he can get on this ledge that both of them are trying to get to. And so the white man looks down at the black man and says, you know what? I'm really sorry for being racist before, right? I know better now. I know better than to have been racist toward you. And then the black man says, all right, that's cool, but why don't you help me up and help me to get on that ledge? And the white man looks at him and says, nah, because that would be reverse racism. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying they did not just give us Juneteenth for no reason, right? There's a reason for it. And I'm just not buying it, So I think I'm gonna end it right there. Next week I will be back on when I say traditional relationships, I mean like other relationships besides the relationship that black people have towards Juneteenth. So that's what this episode was about, the relationship of black people or people of African descent with Juneteenth, and whether we should maintain that relationship or let that relationship go and start looking at really what happened before, right? I'm not for or against both. I'm just posing the question. I just want to start the conversation, right? So that we're actually part and partial to what it is that we accept, instead of just grabbing what's handed to us, So that's all I'm saying. All right. So until next time, it's been your man of many names and monikers. Tune in to Notoriously Opinionated next week. Same notorious time, same notorious station. And until then, your man is out. Peace.